like the late great Jerry Orbach says at the end of Dirty Dancing, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. And I was wrong about this one. And to your point, a lot of other people were too. But Russ has that quality that would make him not someone who Bob Knight would want. Bob Knight always, if a guy missed 3 straight shots, sit down. Like, you're not going to shoot your way out of this one. But Russ is one of those guys who just keeps on firing.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Wisdom Wednesday, presented, of course, by DraftKings. Today, the wisdom comes from an oldie but a goodie, my guy, Dave Dameshek. Now, a lot of you remember him from the NFL Network or NFL.com days. Always a blast talking with Shek. Always a blast giving out winners on Friday. Spread the word, sponsor confirmation email, YouTube shout out. You know the deal. Dameshek, of course, presented by Labatt Blue Light. Drink some Labatt Blue Lights with your friends. Live life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York.
The Big Show.
It has been way, way too long since I had on one of my original peers, OGs, I don't know what you want to call it, in the podcast industry. In fact, I still to this day have people that tell me they first heard about me on his show, which is quite the honor, I would say, for both of us. You got to check him out on social media, at Dameshek. He is the accountant for taste, which I love. I'm talking, of course, about Dave Dameshek. He's got a bunch of different things going on. Check out the Shek Show, whether it's audio or Shek Show on YouTube. The guy basically invented several things that people now steal from him. Like, he did this whole series, NFL.com, NFL, and now other people do stuff like that, acting like they invented it. I even heard Peyton Manning say, Tom Brady would have 10 Super Bowls if it wasn't for my mom. Hey, Peyton, yeah, I know where you got that. From me saying it to Dameshek on his show. So give me some credit for I was the first person that invented that on Dave's show. The other thing I love about you, Dave, is the Jenga pieces, which we're going to get into as well. But first, what's up, fella? What's the poop? Or how's the poop?
Well,
whatever.
First of all, yes, I gave credit where it was due when I issued that particular NFL many moons ago. You floated that idea, and I said this is all Ross Tucker's idea, and I tweeted it at Archie and Olivia and their progeny. So credit to you. And what's been new? A lot's changed for you. Last, you and I yapped on each other's shows. You were doing more sideline work on broadcasts, and now you have really broken out. I know you were doing some preseason ball here and there, and doing, Army games and all that, but now you have emerged as a true national voice doing big-time stuff. We could talk about Brady v. Olsen all we want, but Ross Tucker is legitimately and sincerely doing as good a work from the analysts' side as there is out there right now. And I'm not just saying that, man. You make it for real, whatever game you're doing, your enthusiasm for watching a game at Army and that environment and everything else, but it doesn't make a difference what game you're calling. It breaks through how much you love football and how funny you are and knowledgeable and all that. So kudos to you on the start of what I hope and trust is going to be the next 30, 40 years of your life, sitting up in a booth calling big-time games.
I really appreciate you saying that. And I'll never forget, last year I'm doing Ohio State at Rutgers, and Rutgers has the lead, and it's the second half, and they're driving like for a touchdown, and Ohio State gets a pick six. And I dare to say that, man, they might want to look at that for targeting, and Ohio State fans are like, what are you talking about? That's not targeting. He didn't even hit him with his head. Meanwhile, Dameshek, either on Twitter or texting me personally, was like, you know how I know it might be targeting? The guy got concussed. The guy got knocked out. Like he might have used his head if you get a concussion on the collision.
I'm a sleuth. Yes.
It was awesome. All right. Let's talk about a bunch of different things. I want to get into throwback uniforms, food. I want to get into Jenga pieces. Let's start with this, though. You, like every Steelers fan I know, and in fact, almost every football person I know, were not on board with Mike Tomlin's decision to bench Justin Fields for Russell Wilson. It was very risky for Tomlin. I called that game against the Jets on Westwood One Radio, his first start. Mm-hmm. It got off to a really ugly beginning. Kind of seems like it was the right call, Shek.
Listen, you know me, like the late great Jerry Orbach says at the end of Dirty Dancing, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. And I was wrong about this one. And to your point, a lot of other people were too. But yeah, it's funny because I think that Jets first half and into the second half really is the defining quality of Russ, at least at 36 years old, on these Steelers, as opposed to other guys who portray themselves as human beings. To the extent that when things go against them, you can feel it if you're up in the stands or watching on TV or otherwise. Like, boy, this is a big spot for him, and he's getting crushed by the weight of it. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields is standing there on the sideline. There were a lot of doubters. There were people in Pittsburgh wearing black and gold colors chanting for Justin Fields to be put back in there. But Russ has that quality that would make him not someone who Bob Knight would want. Bob Knight always, if a guy missed 3 straight shots, sit down. Like, you're not going to shoot your way out of this one. But Russ is one of those guys who just keeps on firing. I don't know. You always hear about that old, it's like football guy talk about, like, he has a short memory, but he has a short memory. Given the pressure that he specifically was under in that Jets game, he really should have fallen apart there. And then he throws one deep shot to Pickens, and it works out, and the rest is history. At least to this point, 3-0. It's hard to argue with. I think it's been a scooch overrated how great he's been as a passer. But the overall result, the formula, is impossible to argue with, going into a big spot now with the Ravens.
The funny thing in that game, I mean, he had a beautiful throw to Mike Williams on Sunday against the Commanders. But the funny thing in that game, the throws weren't even that good. He basically was just like, okay, if they're man-to-man or on Pickens and maybe to a lesser extent Freiermuth, I'm just going to throw it up and see if those guys can make a play. And you know what? They can. And I think that's maybe what Fields wasn't doing, is that Fields needs a guy to be like wide open to feel comfortable to throw it to him. Whereas Russell Wilson's mindset is, I don't need to be wide open. If it's one-on-one, I like my guys' chances more than them. I'm going to throw it up there and give them a chance. And, man, that's working a lot. They have the right guys. And honestly, I think it was John Daigle, my Fantasy Feast co-host now, on last week's show. He said Mike Williams is like the perfect Russell Wilson receiver. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really get open or separation, but he's going to catch a lot of those 50-50 balls.
He's a duplicate, not in personality, but in skill set of George Pickens, right? And it seems like maybe a redundancy, but they want to play action and run the ball. And, you know better than I do, but that puts a lot of heat on those safeties to make a decision there. What are you going to do if they are on either side of the line of scrimmage, Pickens and Williams? It really does set up some tough decisions for you and makes some relatively easy reads for Russ, right? He knows where he's going with the football pre-snap based on where those safeties are, right? And one of those safeties at least has to be close to the line of scrimmage because of Najee Harris and or Jaylen Warren. True?
Right. And even if you don't feel like you need to do that, or you're really risking something if you don't have a safety over the top of George Pickens. I mean, you're really putting your corner in a bad spot. Well, then Mike Williams one-on-one against maybe your second corner. I mean, that's a pretty good spot. All right. They're playing the Ravens on Sunday. Here's I want two thoughts on this. Number one, has this game ever not come down to a field goal or less at the end? Like, we did the Even Money podcast on Tuesday, Shek, and the Steelers are getting 3.5 at home, and Steve Fezzik and I just started laughing to each other. Like, what? Let me just say this on the record. Until I die or until something changes, whichever team is getting 3.5 points in the Ravens-Steelers game, that's who I'm taking. It's a 50-50 proposition. It goes either way, but even if your team loses, they only lose by 3 and you still win the bet.
It's funny, and by the way, I want you to be a part of our NFC East version of this, but we just did the inaugural AFC North focus podcast. I want to start doing these once a month or so, and I think you would be the perfect NFC East rep. Obviously, you could maybe do some AFC East rep too. But we did AFC North, and this is one of the things we talked about. And yes, first of all, the Ravens-Steelers rivalry, it forever, every final score between the two teams in history, you can look it up, it's proven, was 13-10. It just was a matter of who was on the winning side. And then a few years ago, inflation bumped it up, and now it's 20-17. But now it will always be that score. So you're spot on. If you see that hook, take the dog. The thing with the Ravens right now, but any high-powered offense that is going up against the Steelers, and especially after a game like they just played against Cincinnati last Thursday night, the Ravens I'm talking about. Your brain can't absorb the possibility that the Steelers would be able to hang with a team like that. But Tomlin, especially since, Roethlisberger's elbow injury, if you restart the clock with this new premise of what the Steelers are under Tomlin, he from that day forward, with Duck Hodges and old Roethlisberger and Kenny Pickett, and now Russ and Justin Fields, he is able to, whether it's the worst team in the league or the best team in the league, he has the ability to turn every game into something around a 13-12 final score. Like, he drags every team down into the mud, and sometimes they lose to teams that you say, like, how did they lose to that garbage team? And then the next week you say, how did they just beat that team? I mean, that's the result. So the idea that that hook is owed to the Ravens just putting up 30 or 40 against every team they play, and it doesn't make, Russell Wilson offense is going to hang with what Lamar Jackson and company are doing. No chance of it. But history proves that your mind, your eyes are playing tricks on you, because the result is exactly as you say, probably going to be a 3-point game.
All right. Here's a question. Baltimore is obviously about crab cakes. Okay?
Yes.
Pittsburgh, most known for like Primanti Brothers and those sandwiches. So It's a two-part question. Number one, if you're having a food battle between the cities, are you going with Primanti Brothers, or are you staking your claim to like pierogies or something else potentially? What would be the number one food you would want to put up against crab cakes if you're putting Pittsburgh's food reputation on the line? And globally, everybody tries each one and decides which city produces better food.
Well, I've mapped it out beyond just these two foes. I've mapped it out for the signature food stuff of every NFL town, including the European cities and Brazil. It's a tough one where Pittsburgh's concerned, because I don't want to be too cute with the pierogies, because when people think of Pittsburgh, it is Primanti's. It's those bump out shots on every network broadcast, is just like you see the Pike Place throwing of the fish in Seattle. You're going to see them making the fries, the sandwich with the fries on it in Pittsburgh at some point during the broadcast. But pierogies probably transcend one place that puts fries and delicious vinegar-based coleslaw on it. Crab cakes can be very good, but they have range too. They're not pizza. Bad pizza is still edible. Bad crab cakes are bad, and they don't pass these sweet lips. That's for sure.
It's a good point, in the sense that crab cakes, you can have a 2 to a 10 crab cake.
Right.
there's not like a 2 to a 10 pizza or a lot of things. Like a Permane Brothers sandwich, none of them are going to be a 2. Like,
Yes.
no matter what you order, it's at least a 5 or a 6. The question is, does it get to the level of like a delicious all crab meat, no filler, essential Maryland crab cake? I don't know. I don't know if it gets there. Although they got the Danger Us now. There's one right here in Hershey. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to.
Oh, yeah. You also have their, what's my favorite place in Harrisburg that they have? Nothing But Turkey? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Simply Turkey.
Simply Turkey. How does a place like that stay open? Like in April? What's the traffic in Simply Turkey?
Hey, listen, you're the one that says we should eat stuffing and stuff other times of the
That's
year.
true.
So,
yeah,
hey,
but here's the trick with that. Here's the trick with that. Same rule applies to it. This rule applies 3 ways. 1, turkey and mashed potatoes get more attention, but the real star is gravy. Same thing with lobster. Oh, I'll pay whatever. What's market price? Hundreds of dollars for the lobster? It would be fine, but it is not going to be delicious unless you have the real star, the drawn butter. And now in pro football, we sing songs about Jared Goff and Brock Purdy and CJ Stroud and beyond, but the real star, the clever offensive coordinators. And in the McVay-Shanny League, don't be an Eberflus.
It's a really good point. It's a really good point. Hey, so 2 more things. One is you are one of the world's foremost experts on NFL uniforms.
Yes.
And my question for you is this. Every time a team wears their throwback, the Seahawks with the Largent, Kurt Warner, Dave Craig, or the Buccaneers with the Creamsicles, or the Eagles with the Kelly Greens, we all look at it and we all say, oh my gosh, those are amazing. That should be what their uniforms are all the time. But at some point in the 90s or the 2000s or whatever it was, we decided they weren't that great, or somebody decided they weren't that great, and they switched it. So my question is, did we get it wrong when we switched it, or is the nostalgia that strong, or is it like how people say trends or whatever always come back around? What is it that makes the creamsicles that we all thought were terrible now amazing?
A larger statement about fashion and the industry of men's clothing, at least. This thing that, that the Gap or whoever, because I that's the highest as it gets for men's fashion, right? The Gap, or is it Old Navy? Either way, every few years they're like, oh no, you can't wear skinny jeans. Now you have to get boot cut, and no, now those are out. Now you got to have corduroys. You're going to have straight legs or whatever they are. And we all abide by it. What are we, a bunch of dupes? What are we listening to them for? Why don't we all just take a stand and say, these pants are going to last me another 10 years. Just stay out of my way and don't tell me I'm unfashionable. Now, your point specific to football is a fascinating question that I've thought about. Here's the answer. Oregon is cool with what they've done. They had no tradition, and now their tradition is a new uniform every week. And now a lot of other schools and now professional outlets are following that trend. So good for them. And that's kind of cool. If you don't have, if you're not iconic in look and all of that it doesn't transcend the generation or the decades, then have at it. But at the end of the day, doesn't Alabama still have the best uniform unless it's Penn State, unless it's Texas? Don't the Steelers and the Raiders and the Chiefs still have the best uniforms in pro football? Really think it through and see if you come up with another answer of one of the newfangled looks that you like better than those. And I don't think it's just like, well, I'm used to them. That's why I like those. It's you understand at the end of the day, you other shiny new keys come along and distract you like, I like those Texans red Christmas ornament helmets the other day. Do you like them better than you like the Steelers with just the one logo on them? Of course you don't. Does anybody have a better uniform than the Raiders, which is essentially untouched in the last 60 years? You don't. So I hear you. The severe ones, like the Buccaneers, I do think that if they just endlessly wore those, when they pulled the plug on those, people were getting sick of those. And so they made a good move by switching those. So, yeah, it's a mixed bag, basically.
All right. Lastly, Jenga pieces. Okay.
Yes.
Jenga theory. One of my favorite things that you do. This could be a whole like TV show. But basically, the player on each team that without him, the team falls apart, other than the quarterback, right? So everybody knows the game Jenga. You pull it out, obviously, other than the quarterback. I love this because you're right. Like the Steelers without TJ Watt, they're done. They're donezo, right? Like the Eagles without Lane Johnson, major problems. Major problem. Now, they've done a good job with their backup O-line over the years, but it's a major problem. I'm trying to think about the other big games
well,
this
think
weekend.
about it this way. Like you say, the quarterback that's too elementary. If you take any star quarterback away,
Yeah, no
obviously.
kidding,
If
right.
Carson Wentz were the Chiefs QB, they probably wouldn't be as good. So remove that. Among the contenders, Ross Tucker, who do you have as, say, your top 3 or 5 essential guys that if you remove them from their team, that team would implode on the spot? I think TJ Watt is pretty high up on that list.
No question. I think Terry McLaurin's pretty high for the Commander. It just seems like he makes all their big plays when they need to. I like Fred Warner for the Niners. He is so integral to what they do that without him, they would really struggle. I feel like some teams, it's more obvious than others. Like the Chiefs. The Chiefs are interesting because you can make an argument for Kelsey and Chris Jones, but they need Chris Jones, man. Like, without Kelsey, they would still... The problem without Kelsey is who would Mahomes throw the ball to on the third downs or fourth downs where we all know, everybody knows, the TV announcer, the refs, that we all know he's going to throw it to Kelsey, and he still does, and they still get the first down. Shek, last thing, I will submit to you, there's never been a combo like this before in my life where anytime they need the first down, we all know what he's going to do, and somehow they still do it. How is that possible?
They are still driving that offense. People get distracted by Tyreek Hill and all of that. But yes, it was always Travis Kelce was the key to that offense. But in just the last 2 games, I wonder if they could get by more with Nuke Hopkins minus Travis Kelce than that defense could without Chris Jones. I think Chris Jones at the end of it, he's the essential piece that you cannot take away from KC if they're going to make another run at the Super Bowl this year.
You got to check him out on social at Dameshek. You have to check out his show. I'm going to be on it soon. The guy is A, hilarious, and B, way more knowledgeable than what I would term the average civilian. I would put him in the top 1% of civilian football watchers, meaning never played or coached. Even the comments he makes about Jenga pieces or it being a coordinator's league or Tomlin bringing them down in the muck, the guy just gets it. It's the Shek Show, YouTube, Apple, everywhere, at Dameshek. Thanks so much, dude. You're the man.
You're the man. I appreciate it, man. And yes, let's do that NFC show sooner rather than later. Also, you left off C, ruggedly handsome.
Love talking with my boy Shek, the accountant for taste. He knows how nice it is to get a new, beautiful front door or a new shower. Let me just tell you guys this, okay? You're going to probably have family over or you're going to have a holiday party. Think about that shower or even the bathroom that you're not real proud of, kind of gross, like from 1995. We can fix that. We can fix that with a listener-owned business. It's westshorehome.com/Ross. They have incredible deals right now. 18 months, free installation, no interest, no payments. Plus, for showers only, they are guaranteeing install by Christmas or it's free. This will be the best Christmas gift your wife will ever have if you get her a new shower. westshorehome.com/Ross. westshorehome.com/Ross. All right, it is your last chance to take advantage of this awesome contest via my friends over at Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka and an official vodka partner of the NFL. They are giving fans in select areas of the country a chance to win the ultimate game day experience, from tickets to sideline passes and so much more. Just head to WeDoGameDays.com until November 15th, that's this week, to enter your chance to win. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff No. 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please do not share with anyone under legal drinking age. No purchase necessary. 21 plus. Ends 11/15/24. See rules at website for participating area and other important details. Sponsored by Diageo Americas Incorporated, New York, New York. Again, go to WeDoGameDays.com. Smirnoff, We Do Game Days.
Tux Takes.
All right, Ross, the biggest news is the Bears. They fire their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron.
No surprise there. Things are getting really ugly in Chicago. Eberflus, this is his last-ditch effort to save his job, right? He needs it to go extremely well with Thomas Brown, because I don't think the Bears would allow him to hire another coordinator. Why would they? So he really needs it to work with Thomas Brown the rest of the season. Otherwise, he knows he'll be gone.
Couple Cowboys notes. Dak Prescott, he is done for the season with a hamstring surgery, and they are signing quarterback Will Grier.
Right. Well, Will Grier has been there before. He's a guy that they can get up to speed pretty quickly. Awful news for Dak. Not that this would affect the contract, but this is also another reason why you get that financial security when you can. It could have been a worse injury.
Meanwhile, Miami, they claim linebacker Tyrell Dodson off waivers, but their right tackle, Austin Jackson, he is done for the season with knee surgery.
So I don't ever remember a team getting rid of both their off-the-ball backers, starters, like midway through the season. They traded Jerome Baker. Now they get rid of Tyrell Dodson, meaning the Seahawks. The Austin Jackson news is tough. The other news, by the way, Jack, Raiders tight end Michael Mayer, he's back at practice for the first time since week 3. He was out with personal reasons, which is awesome because I'm doing their game on Sunday. Hopefully he can play. And then the Niners gave Diamador Lenore, the corner opposite Charvarius Ward, a huge contract extension. Kudos to him, man. He earned it. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network on Samsung TV Plus, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. It is holiday shopping season. Please do me a personal favor. At least go to myfrontpagestory.com and see what these awesome stories look like. And then go ahead, throw your email in so you get the discount code. And then whether you do it for the holidays for someone, I think it's perfect for grandparents or parents. I also love Pizza Boy Brewing, Sporticulture, HumanNetNYC.com, BackOfficeScheduler.com.